Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Uduak Amimo. Today marks the third and final day of national mourning in honor of the victims of the Garissa terror attack last Thursday. The government has responded by bombing Al-Shabaab camps in Somalia, and last night froze forex bureaus and accounts linked to the terror networks. And on Monday, politicians from the northeast of the country, led by National Assembly Majority Leader and Garissa MP Aden Duale, pledged to give the names of radicalized youth to the government. But questions over the handling of the response to the attack are mounting. Who knew what and when? Could more precautions have been taken to protect the university? Could the siege have been ended earlier? How do, indeed can we, end terrorism in Kenya? Well, Mr. Duale is one of our guests today, as is Azman Kamama, the chair of the National Assembly's National Security Committee and MP for Tiati, as well as Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi. He's the chairman of NAMLEF, the National Muslim Leaders Forum. David Makali is away on leave, so we have a panel of one. We're taking Jao of Real Media Services. Good morning all and welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to begin by condoling with the families of the victims and survivors, and I think we all share those condolences. We've gone through a terrible tragedy. Mr. Duale, I'll start with you, because of course you and your fellow leaders from the northeastern region say that you're going to, among several things, give the names of radicalized Jews. Can you recap the scale of the intervention for us?
First and foremost, I think I was in Garissa when the incident took place. I was part of the evacuation team, and it was very horrifying and a heinous act to see the first university in independent Kenya going through that. And I'm sure
in that region?
Yes, it's the first ever. The president was supposed to give a charter in May this year, and it's the first ever university in northeastern in any of the administrations. So it's going to be a historical scar on Garissa and the people of the north in as far as the 147 lives we have lost. The leadership of northern Kenya, we had a hold up in 2 weeks, 2 days in a meeting. And I think what should have come out very, very clearly is that now we can confirm that the enemy we are facing is within, that we are facing a homegrown terrorism. Days are gone when we could say that we have been invaded by Al-Shabaab, by Somalis or their fighters from across the border. What we are facing now is a homegrown solution. And we as leaders now are coming out. We want to appeal to our people, first document through our parents and our people the number of children who are missing. We're telling parents to come out and tell us your sons and daughters who are missing. So as a country, first we audit how many of our children are away. That will help in our sense that we can monitor them, because these children again come back to the country, either to do intelligence surveillance for Al-Shabaab or to do attacks. Secondly, that again will deter more children to go. So as a country, we must face it. Secondly, everywhere in the world, terrorism and terrorists have infrastructure, either in terms of business, in terms of resources, in terms of sympathizers. And we have said, let's go back again to the region and help our people, ask our people, because there is a stereotype. People were not going to the police. They were scared. But now I'm sure with the leadership, it's bearing fruit. And in fact, I want to confirm that since we spoke, in all the 3 counties, parents are now coming out. And they're saying, my child, my daughter disappeared in 2012, 2011. And I'm sure the government again will use its intelligence network, counter-checked, verified, to say so and so business is involved in acts of terror. And this country has very, very good laws, the anti-money laundering. And I'm sure the accounts which are frozen must have been frozen based on law.
Okay, before we get to that, just to summarize, your the intervention coming from the northeastern leaders is the audit of children who are missing, who are suspected to have gone and joined up with Al-Shabaab, monitoring of those children. Is there anything else before we move on?
Yes, and also we will go and sit with our people, and because they have confidence in us, and we'll ask them, please tell us who are the sympathizers, who are the financiers, among ourselves. And once we get that list of those names, we will share with the security intelligence.
What about, there's another aspect to this matter. What about the Somalis? People from Somalia who have come to Kenya and fraudulently and corruptly got identity cards. Many of them. In fact, the stories we get even from leaders from northern region is that Kenyan Somalis young people who finish Form 4 and Standard 8 don't get IDs because they're sold to Somalis who can pay. And there's an MP who came here, a lady woman, who said she has a relative who is grown up, hana kipande. Why? Because they're being sold. What about that?
Number one, that is not a core function of the leadership. I think that is a function of government. That's a function of the registration of persons and the immigration.
Who should sort out those people?
And this is as a result of the law we passed, the controversial law that we passed, where not only ID card, any public or state officer who aids even in the acquisition of a Kenyan document has something to pay. But this is a problem we face in all the border communities. If you go to Tanzania, who live on the side, if you go to Northeast, there are people who becomes the victim. The victim is the locals. I totally agree with you. There are Kenyans who don't get
Actually, we can hear from one,
yes.
Sheikh, because your son has the same problem.
I would have wanted to discuss about other issues, but since the ID issue has come up, I just want to address and give a living example of what's been happening. And I'm very, very glad that we are sitting with the majority leader here today. My second-born son, who is now 40 years old, lost his ID. For the last 4 years, we have been running around the country, discussed with everybody. And my witness is Mheshimiwa Duale.
Yeah.
We went up to the head office, to the chief registrar. He does not have an ID up to today. I have also to report that I personally met with the president and I informed him about that particular case in the presence of the deputy president. And as I sit and talk to you today here, the young man does not have an ID.
Why?
Which means he cannot travel around the country, which means he cannot get employment, which means he cannot open an account.
He lost an ID or he has never
lost
been
an
issued.
ID. He lost an ID. He has got a copy of the old ID. We went there. It was even addressed, it was discussed from the floor of parliament. The government said within 2 weeks they will issue him. And you see, that leads me into, whilst I commend the leadership of Northeastern for going and trying to find out a solution to these things. They are trying to find out who are the radical youth who have either gone or who are in the process of going. But I think we should take a step backwards.
Yeah.
What are the factors that's making these young men join Somalia? And this is multidimensional. Some of them could be because of external influence. Some of them could be factors within the country. As I am talking to you now, if should my son go, fortunately he comes from a good family, fortunately he listens to us, he has not gone. But suppose with his frustrations and the current status of the world, and being told that actually Somalis are being oppressed within this country and having this external influence, if he did go, is it because he wanted to join Shabab, or is it because of frustration that he got within his own country? So my call is actually there are issues which we need to address. We can use the hard approach, use the military, use the police force, but we need to do more research. What is making our youth be convinced to join an external force to come and have their own country?
But Sheikh, the frustrations that you talk are felt wide across the board in Kenya. Why must a certain section of Kenya's people feel that they alone must go and fight against the country? If you say that we must take a step back, let's take 2 steps back to ask, how are these people getting radicalized? What is the message? When you're a sheikh, you're a leader, you're recognized as that. When you preach in the mosques, what are you preaching?
Uduak, I fully agree with you. It's not only the Muslim youth in this country who feel frustrated. We have got millions of Kenyans who have completed university education. They are jobless, moving in the streets. Some of them are trying to get their livings through pushing handcarts. So I do understand that. But whilst that is there is one extra thing that happens to the Muslims. While the rest are not getting jobs, The Muslims are being discriminated against, and they can see that clearly.
How so?
How so? Because they cannot get ID cards. When it comes to arrests, a lot of them were being arrested in the Coast Province. Arrested, detained for a number of days, and then released. A number of them have gone underground. They cannot go out openly and speak about these things. So there's a lot of factors that are within these things. As a country, I don't believe actually should be looking at this thing from Muslims, Somali position. This is our country. The 147 people who died are our people. We feel the pain. Our hearts bleed for them. We don't want to see any of those things. We should address this thing as a Kenyan. I wouldn't want to be seen as a Somali or as a Muslim. I want to be seen as a Kenyan. We have a problem. Collectively, we have to address these things. What's even more dangerous than that? We should not fall in the trap of what the Al-Shabaab are trying to do today. Basically creating a wedge between Muslims and non-Muslims within this country. Fortunately for this country, I thank God and I thank the people of this country. They have not fallen within that trap of being seen that it is the Somalis or the Muslims who are attacking us. It's our people. It's our children, the ones who have died. The discrimination that they did in the times of the attack was an agenda to create a split within us. We rejected that, and we continue to reject that. But at the same time, we should get collectively together. And the security machinery of this country should be looking for a soft approach in terms of addressing these issues.
And
I want to confess on one thing. You asked me as a sheikh, what did you do? We have dealt with the highest possible level of authority in this country. We have discussed with the security machinery. We have discussed with the State House. We have brought proposals. We have given written proposals.
And what happened to your proposals?
Nothing has happened. I'm very sad to say that.
Like what? What is it you propose that has not been
We proposed how to address some of these youth problems, the issue of the unemployment, the issue of registration of ID cards, the issue of inclusivity of the societies. Thank God we are at a time whereby there is changes within the country. Marginalization was one thing that we have been complaining about over the last 50 years. With the devolutionary process, we are seeing changes throughout the country, and particularly within those areas that initially were left behind. Unfortunately, at the time that we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, is the time now that we are being affected by all these things, which is now stopping all the development in the place. Northeastern is literally going to come to a standstill unless we do something to correct these things. Thank God, and I repeat that again, the political leaders over the last 1 week or so since these things has happened, I think they're having sleepless nights trying to address this issue. My call on them is not your problem, it's our problem. The leadership at the political level, the leadership at the religious level, and more importantly, the security machinery in this country and the agencies that are involved should start trusting people, not to treat everybody as a suspect. When you are seen as a Muslim or a Somali, you will not be told things frankly. Probably Duale is being told because the leader of the majority. But some of us, we still have got question marks about
I think this morning...
Maybe I should say something.
Okay.
Yeah, please. Maybe let me say, let me comment on the issue of unemployment and the issue of IDs.
Actually, while you do that, I noticed you frowning when Sheikh was talking about the harassment. You seem to disagree that harassment is the exclusive preserve of Kenyan Somalis and Muslim, Kenyan Muslims.
Yes, yeah. Let me just comment on the issue of IDs. What the Sheikh is saying is very true. Kenyan Somalis, quite a number of them don't have IDs. But the Somalis from Somalia would actually connive, would actually corrupt the system and get IDs. So that is an idea, or that is a problem that is supposed to be solved by us, the leaders. And I want to propose that, because this is a real problem, let us, the leadership, can sit down with government so that we can get, because I know there's some vetting mechanism that is taking place right now. But in most border communities, we must get a better way of solving this problem. It's a real problem among Kenyan Somalis. So I agree. But the solution can be found.
It's corruption.
Yeah?
This is corruption.
Of course, I agree with you that that quite a number of Somalis from Somalia would get IDs in this country through corruption. So, but for Kenyan Somalis, that problem is real. We really want to sit down and solve that problem. Having maybe a special committee to deal with, especially the Kenyan Somalis. They don't need to be frustrated. But the onus is also on the Somali community, Somali parents, to tell us who is actually the Kenyan Somali.
So presumably this is where Mr. Dwale
Lastly, the issue of unemployment. That one is a Kenyan problem across the board, not only in in Northeastern. It is a Kenyan problem, so it should be treated as a Kenyan problem, and the government should solve it, across the board. That I agree. That
I think what we have said it, and I want to use the word, what we are facing with is homegrown solution. Not all Somalis are Shabab. You'll find within the ranks and the file of the Shabab other Kenyans of Muslim descent, from Western, from Nyanza, from coast, from everywhere. But the bulk of it, the hub, the breeding ground, and even from the historical structure of that organization, from even the word Shabab. I mean, being an Islamic, but its leadership, even in Somalia, is from the Somali community. What am I coming to say? In this war, the religious leaders have a serious role to play. The political leadership has a serious role to play. The community leaders have a role to play. The government at the national level has a role to play. And the county governments have a role to play. Now that we have reached this stage, and we must see this in the face of Mungiki when it came to our country. Mungiki was not solved until unless when the central Kenyan leadership, both across the political divide, spoke in one voice and talked to the parents, and serious audit was done. So what are we saying as leaders? What we gave the country is the role the leadership can play. Number one, we have said we need to go back to our people. The big people have confidence in us. The parents can share with us. Parents were coming to us. They can talk to our religious leaders. They can talk to political leaders. They can talk to the elders. Let's go back and sit and first audit how many of our children are away. Until Sunday, nobody knew. Maybe your neighbor.
So how many do you know?
No, it's not that I know. But I'm sure by Tuesday when I reach Garissa, we will get parents who are talking to us. And parents were saying the moment they go to the police station and they say, my son is missing, the first thing the police were doing, they were arresting the old man. So there was a lot of fear. So we want to remove that fear from the whole concept of fighting terror. Two, we are saying we have kept the refugee camps for too long. And now, through intelligence, it has been confirmed. Members of parliament where the refugee camps are there, including my own county, cannot, even the Kenya government, during the night, there is no security there. So we are telling government, if your intelligence has proved that these are the harboring centers, this is a training ground, this is where the storage is kept. Thirdly, I think it's not about employment. Unemployment is everywhere across the board. The young man from Mandera was an A student. He was a lawyer of repute. What we are fighting is an ideology. What we are fighting is a doctrination.
Yes.
It can even happen to the best of the best in the affluent society in Kenya.
Which is what we've been
It can even happen to my son. Thirdly, and I think which people are not looking at, is that the Shababs and the terror networks work through propaganda. They work through the social media. Who is controlling the social media? I mean, today, if you go to some of the sites controlled by the Shabab, you'll find all the radicalized youth. What do? Part of their strategy is even to selectively use the Quranic interpretations to incite the youth. Of course, I think time has come when today, as the people of the North, we cannot talk about marginalization. Our 3 counties get 20 billion every year. We have more presence in government and in the private sector as a Somali community. So anybody who wants to sell the script of marginalization, particularly for the Somali community, is not there. Of course, the Muslim community...
But perhaps they're talking about legacy.
Yes.
The history.
Maybe the history. Yeah. But you know, history, part of the history was, the bad history we had is being solved by the Constitution. I mean, I was one of the people who said, Mr. President, TJRC says you must apologize to the people. And he did it. So I think what we are saying, and I think we need to, in fact, even extend this, and we said we'll extend to the other parts of the country.
Okay.
Using the leadership,
right.
we will go to Western Province, we will go to Nyanza, we will say our Muslim families,
right.
please share with us names of your children.
Okay, you've made that point. But why didn't you do this post-Westgate, post-Mandela? Because even at that time when we thought that people were coming in and going out, there was local complicity. There were local sympathizers. So at what point do you come to us now and say, this is what we're going to do? Given that over the last 3 years, we've been seeing terror attacks in this country escalating.
Uduak, number one, that is the question I've been answering since that press conference from many people. I'm ready to answer it. Number one, we had the Westgate, we had the Mpeketoni, we had the Mandela 2 attacks, and now we have Garissa. Those are the key where we lost so many people. The question is, in Mpeketoni, up to today, I mean, nobody said these are Somalis from Garissa, from Wajir Mandela. And first and foremost, the security situation in Kenya, in the constitution, lies with the National Security Council. What is the role of us, leaders? Our role, and I want to say it here, maybe for too long we have failed. Maybe we slept on the job on our part.
I think many Kenyans would feel that way.
And I need, as a leader, I need to go extra mile and say, yes, we failed. The political leaders from Northeastern Province, the religious leaders, the community leaders, we should have met a long time ago. But all we could do was our bit. Everybody has his bit. As
what you're telling us,
saying,
to cut it short,
let
what
me
you're
finish.
saying.
What Sheikh Abdullahi has said is that Sheikh Abdullahi, the NAMLEF, the Supreme Council, the Council of Imams, have been engaging governments. They have been talking to the intelligence community. They have been saying all this. But now, it's actually a stage where we need to come out openly. We need even to sell the script to the Kenyan people. And we say, myself as the political leader, Sheikh Abdullahi as the religious leader, we are now telling the Kenyans every day, we have done this, so that Kenyans can know we did our part. But I can tell you, yes, we might have, at one stage, have failed our responsibility.
So what you're telling us is that you're intervening now because these terrorists were identified as Kenyan. That's what's prompted you.
Now, yes, now it has confirmed that the scale in which terrorism was happening in Kenya is no longer across the border.
But we knew that there were local terror cells.
No.
We had grenade attacks.
No, but now I can confirm to you what we are facing as a country is a homegrown terror. And homegrown terror, it means it is within your body, it's within the community. So who does come out? It is those in the community.
What are you saying? What are you saying? There is a statement from Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, a prominent Nairobi lawyer, who says leaders, politicians in Garissa.
Northeastern Kenya.
Wherever. Why not?
Yes.
I think that was a tweet from my very good friend and my lawyer, Ahmed Nasir. He should have been here this morning. Yes. And he should give the country and the intelligence community who is that specific northeastern leader that is involved in terror. I mean, in my opinion, and it's my good friend, I told him, in my opinion, that was a bit more irresponsible, more reckless.
Okay.
Because if you want to help, you say Honorable Duale, Honorable so-and-so, that clan is involved in terror.
Right. I'll come to you, Sheikh, in a moment, but you both said something that struck a chord, not just with me, but I can see with many Kenyans. You said that this terror is now chasing people away from Garissa. This is the first university you've had in the northeastern region, and now this becomes a scar. How do you convince Kenyans listening to this program that your intervention doesn't have to do with saving the country as much as it has to do with ensuring that your region gets the resources that it needs by attracting Kenyans from other communities?
Number one, every part of our country is a target of terrorists. But the north is always a soft target. That must come out very clear. The north, because of its proximity to the border, because of the complex terrain, because of lack of roads, it's always a soft target. So I still feel Garissa University was a soft target. Whether intelligence was provided, that is an information maybe the people concerned with. But finally, every part of our country is a target of the terror. And what do they want to do? They want to do the maximum damage to profile their evil acts. But as a country, I think as much as we will allow government, the intelligence community and the security to work, we have an obligation within the Constitution as leaders, as citizens, to play a role in the war against
You've
terror.
made that point. Mr. Kamama, I'll come to you because you oversight
Yes.
national security in the country.
Yeah.
Your colleague in the National Assembly says that Garissa University was a soft target, which many of us believe, given that we hear that universities in Nairobi were on alert.
Yes.
Will you be will you be questioning that? How can this happen? That a university, an institution
Yes.
so close to the border
Yeah.
is left open,
Yeah.
vulnerable to this sort of attack?
Thank you very much. First of all, I just want to state like 4 things. Today, so in one of the papers, I said that Honorable Gaiseri and Boynet failed. Those are not my words. But I said, at least I like the passion, you know, the way they dealt with that rescue. I love the passion. One thing I want to say is that they could have done better. They could have done better.
How so?
For the rec company to actually stay for 8 hours. The 2 gentlemen could have done better than that. In fact, I was proposing that that even before they left here, they should have made sure that rec company is actually on the ground. Yeah, but I know that there are issues to do with the logistics. We have problems
but what
with
kind of
planes.
logistical issues? Because they must have been helicoptered there. So could one of them not have had the presence of mind to say, I don't necessarily need to be on the ground at this point in time. Give my place to the people who need to be
I was on the ground. The rec company were airlifted to Nairobi. They arrived at midday. I was in Garissa by 9. The rec company came through. 2 police fixed wing. You know, it's good to tell the country.
They should have been there by 9.
So they were there by midday.
They should have been there by 9.
Too late. That's what you are saying.
Yeah, midday. I'm sure but they were there at midday. And the rec company, the way I saw, because I was with them.
Let me address this
They
issue.
took about also 2 hours to look at, you know, they had to talk to the university officials. They were to be given the structure design of that.
They had to be briefed. I'm sorry, let me make it point.
So they could have done better. But I want to propose that in future, and this will demand as a committee, that we should even have a template where when we get such a report, they should respond within 1.5 or 2 hours, anywhere in any geographical area in this country. Again, I want to say that the officers, the county security team could have done better, because they got intelligence, very specific and actionable. In fact, the university administration was aware that there was that threat, and these officers could not even deploy 1 section.
Why not?
I think because the normal lethargy and laxity.
Ineptitude.
So ineptitude. So I think the officers must be put into account. Those of the county security team could have done better. We have many security men and women in Garissa. And in fact, you don't even need to wait for the rec company. We have very good policemen who could have done that job. At least do, as we wait for the rec company.
Minimize.
Minimize that kind of destruction. And so I want to say that this should be a wake-up call from today henceforth. You know, we've been attacked so many times. From '98, we had the Westgate. We've had the 2 incidents in Garissa, in Mandera. We've had the Peketoni, and many in Coast Province. It looks like we are not learning from our mistakes.
Okay.
And so today, in the next, when we come back from recess, we will demand from the Minister and Inspector General that, because we are not yet done with Al-Shabaab, we have many cells in this country. And I agree, and I want to thank the leaders from the north, led by Majority Leader, that we should now have homegrown solutions to this problem.
Mr. Kamama, you're making a lot of sense, and what you're saying sounds plausible. And you seem to be putting up a robust inquiry into, lessons from this. But you handled Westgate, and you gave us a botched report, which the National Assembly refused to accept. So why should we believe you now?
Let me tell you, that report, I'm happy we are all here, including my brother, the Majority Leader. One of our proposals is that we should close all refugee camps. I'm happy that, people are getting the sense now. And I want to propose
Why do you want to close refugee camps, given that we've hosted refugees for years in this country, and we didn't have terrorism? So why do we now start the association of terrorism with refugee camps? We've gotten, even in that report, I said there's sufficient intelligence to prove that a lot of training is happening in those camps. And we want to propose that we have the next, after Liboi, we have a township called Doble. These people should be relocated to Doble, and they can get assistance from the UN and everybody from that point. Again, we are ill-equipped as a country. In strategies to do with terror, we have inadequate equipment for the security fellows. So we need to deal with this problem now. Losing 147, good brains. I'm not saying even those without good brains, are supposed to lose their lives. But I'm telling, this is creme de la creme of this society. Mr. Kamama, hang on. Your Westgate inquiry was, your report was rejected. Part of the claims were that your committee, including yourself, was compromised.
That you went to DOD. One member of parliament, who is a member of that committee, came on this table, said that your members went to DOD, you are compromised. That's when you wrote a shadow report, which was rejected by parliament.
I know one of the senators said that.
No, not a senator, member of parliament, a member of the committee.
What, member of the committee?
Yes, who did not go
I want to say that, I want to state categorically that didn't happen. We wrote our report objectively. But when you write a report...
Your members go to DOD?
No. That didn't happen. That didn't happen, my brother. That didn't happen. And we were not compromised.
Actually, it wasn't just one member of parliament.
Allegations.
That
so those are just the usual allegations that are usually made.
That you went to the DOD and you had lunch there. You were given a tour of the facilities.
Yes, I reject that. If you have any evidence, please give us evidence. That didn't happen. Okay. I want to state that it didn't happen. And if you have any evidence to the contrary, you can give us that information.
Right. Sheikh, I'll come to you. I think we have to take a break shortly, but very quickly, because your organization, NAMLEF, coordinates, if I understand it correctly, imams, Muslim leaders. How do you explain, what is the radicalization message, and how is it different from your faith as a Muslim?
Well, Doc, before I answer that question, I see we're going back to Westgate and we are really carpeting the Mheshimiwa. But what I want to state is that if things happen, we don't want those bad things to happen. But when they do happen, there should be a lesson for us to make sure that the same is not being repeated in the future. So the questions you are posing is, what will be the next report from the Garissa incident, from his team? I think that's what we're asking. But we always have this issue, always a knee-jerk reaction whenever these things do happen. Immediately, Westgate happened and whatnot, Isli, people were herded into Kasarani. Okay? That was thought to be a solution. It was not a solution. Operation Salama. Now, today, we're talking about closing down of the refugee camps. First of all, we have to understand that the refugees have been in this country for the last 20 years. It is the last 3-4 years when the problem, the threat from Somalia and Al-Shabaab has increased. But the refugees have been there all those years. Then the thing is, let us look at who are the terrorists and what do they do. It is 4 people or 5 people probably who caused all the mess in Garissa. which brought us to our current status when everybody is feeling the pain. When you're talking about 300,000 people and you're condemning them for the action of individuals, and there's no evidence yet that the so-called Mohammed Abdullahi from Mandera was trained in that refugee camp, I think you are victimizing people who are already victims of Al-Shabaab. Moving to Somalia, these are human beings. Kenya has signed charters to protect human beings. When you victimize them probably for failures of our own security organs, failures of the citizens like us, not taking care of their country, and blaming people who are innocent who have come from their country seeking security in our country, I think we are taking the wrong route. More than that, I think there's an agreement that was signed between the Kenya government, the Somali government, and UNHCR. There was voluntary repatriation of people who wanted to go. Only 2,000 have gone so far. Why didn't they go? People don't want to be refugees in refugee camps. It's because the security situation inside Somalia. So, whilst I can hear proposals of that one, I think we need to give it much more serious thought. Coming back to your question, what do we do as Muslim leaders or as NAMLEF?
No. Okay, go ahead, yes.
Radicalization.
As I told you earlier, this issue of radicalization. First of all, before I even go to radicalization, I want to make one correction. And I'm saying that specifically for the media people. There are words which are being thrown around, and actually they are accepted by the general public as literally the truth. Islamist is a word which is commonly used. It offends us as Muslims for terrorists to be called Islamists. I am an Islamist, and I don't shy away from that. I believe in Islam, I practice Islam. The Islam I practice, and I think the Honorable Duale practices, is not the Islam where you go and take away your life.
Okay, and so then we come to the differences between your faith and what we see the terrorists propagating as Islam.
So first of all, let's agree that it's not Islam. That's one point I want us to make. Because if we accept that any person who calls himself a Muslim, who commits a crime, is an Islamic crime, I think that's a very wrong perception. We know of Christians. You know the Davidian sect in America, what they did. You know the Jim Jones. All these are people who claim to be Christians. But you see the media, when they are reporting, they don't say Christians who did that. They said it's a sect. It's a cult. But when it comes to Muslims, and unfortunately this is being propagated by the Western media, anything which is negative will be portrayed as Islamist, as jihadists, and you know, even using that, and then they'll use dirty words to offend Muslims, that there are 72 virgins that they're fighting for, which is actually they're touching the heart of Muslims in these things. So when you release this information, for heaven's sake, if you don't know, find out what it is. I blame ourselves as Muslim leaders. We should have educated the media what we mean by jihad. We should have educated the media what Islam stands for, which is completely contrary to what is being propagated. At the local level, Muslims have been participating in interfaith gatherings throughout the country. We have got interfaith gathering at the national level. We have got interfaith gathering at every different levels, even if you read today's paper.
Okay, hang on. Before we go too far, we have to take a break. So I'll pause there, but we'll come back to the messages of both faith versus radicalization. You're watching Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV, and we're discussing the Garissa attack and how to end terrorism in Kenya. If you've got any thoughts, opinions, you've been sending them in. I've been seeing them come in. But just to remind you, the SMS number is 22422, and our Twitter handle is @Cheche_TV.